Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Jackie, and if you are new to the channel, it's nice to meet you. Or if you are a regular viewer of the channel, good to see you again. Today's video is going to be a little different because as you can see, you can actually see me, and this is not typically the case in the videos that I make on this channel. And the other reason is because I'm going to be talking mostly about myself, which is not, it's something that I do, but it's usually in relation to a video that I'm responding to or to a main point that I'd like to make in regard to veganism more specifically. But today is going to be more about having an animal-based diet. And basically this video is going to be in 3 parts. Well, I'll give a short introduction, and then after that I'll go into the positives that I've seen in this way of eating. I'll go into the negatives that I've seen into this way of eating. And then finally I'll talk about how I eat now and some changes I hope to see in the future. The reason why I want to make this video is some months ago I saw a video by Lillie, and I actually have a response that I'm making to that video. It's months in the making because life has just been kind of busy. But she basically said why she quit carnivore. And she goes into detail about some issues that she's having that she's trying to resolve and all of the things that she's been doing to try to resolve those issues. And it includes doing things that are not considered carnivore. And she also had some criticism of some of the people who are well known. She didn't really name drop, but I thought it was good to have that kind of video because I always want people to be reasonable. I always want people to be rational. I always want people to recognize and understand one of the main differences between I can't say but this way of eating and, for example, a vegan way of eating is that with veganism, there's an ideology that kind of dictates what you can or can't eat. But, on this side, and one of the reasons why I appreciate this side more is it is about health and happiness. And so if the changes that you've made are not working for you in terms of improvement in health, if the changes that you've made are not working in terms of improving your happiness, then it's fine to make the changes that you need to make. And we should all be reasonable about what that looks like. On the vegan side, we should be reasonable about that too. That's one of my main messages on this channel is that people should just be reasonable. You can't be reasonable if the foundation for what you are doing isn't reason. And that's what veganism is. That's a problem with veganism. I recently appeared on, it was in August, so recently enough, Dave Mack's channel. So Dave Mack is a person who has moved abroad. He's living in Japan, and he does interviews of people who are trying carnivore or carnivore adjacent diets. And those people talk about their journey, basically. I think this is also a very important thing, that people be as open as they can possibly be. And I wanted to share that story. So if you want more detail, I go into much deeper detail in that video. And today I'll just kind of gloss over a few of the things that I'm happy about in terms of the diet. And for full transparency's sake, I'm using a different camera. So I usually record videos on my cell phone, and how can I put this? I think it has built-in filters. And so on this camera, it's just a basic camera. It's basically showing you the true story about what my face looks like. There's no filters. Even if I knew how, I just don't bother to do it on this particular camera. And I like this camera because it allows me to record as long as I need to, whereas the space is limited on my cell phone. And also the cell phone kind of doesn't really show you what I really look like. So if you were to see me in real life, likely this is what my face would look like to you. I don't know, even if you turn the filters off, it still makes me look whiter than I am. Because I have a light, but even in this camera, you can still see that I'm, not that light. In any case, and it also smooths my face out where it looks like I don't have, some of these creases. It looks like I don't have dark eye circles, but I do, for example, so you can see, the real me for transparency's sake. I also wanted to mention that although I do wear a wig, it isn't to hide my hair. It's because I'm a non-fussy person and my hair is very fussy, so I prefer to just leave it under wraps most of the time. I took a picture recently of my hair after I kind of straightened it, and this is what it looks like. I took these pictures with my cell phone, which is why my face may look a little different than it does on the camera that the current video films me looking. But I do want to mention that I don't wear makeup. I'm not wearing makeup in the current video that you're watching, nor am I wearing makeup in these images. Okay, so let's get into the first point. The first point is all about the positives. And the positives are my main motivation for continuing on the diet, even though some negatives persist or have arisen. And basically it is that, I don't feel as though I have IBS. If you had asked me that, 2.5 years ago, I would have thought that was just a thing about me that was not something that could be changed. And I can proudly say I don't have GERD. It's not a thing that I have. To say that you have a disease without realizing that it's a condition that you've created in yourself, basically because of the way that you're eating, it's very liberating to acknowledge that my stomach is fine. You know, to acknowledge that I'm not broken, to acknowledge that I'm not the strange one or the weird one for not being able to eat foods that other people's bodies, you know, accept without them, you know, getting any indication that what they're eating is actually bad for them. My body is very good at telling me, hey, that thing you put in me, please don't put that in me again. It's very, very good at telling me that. And I appreciate that. And I love my body and myself. And I'm sorry that I was so hard on myself in the past. I never needed to be. There are a multitude of small things that have changed. Some things I think are major, some things are kind of smaller, but for me, it was just mainly resolving those digestive issues and also resolving mental health issues. I have good and bad days. Especially since I stopped drinking coffee. Before I stopped drinking coffee, it was just mainly good days and then really, really good days. But since I don't really partake in any drugs anymore, everything is just very calm for the most part, almost every day. And so it means that the lows don't get very low and the highs don't get very high, unless my period is like coming, in which case, who knows? In any case, I don't have the same kind of suicidal thoughts that I used to have. I don't sit around and wallow in self-pity. I don't have as many days where I don't want to do anything without knowing why I don't want to do anything. Nowadays, it feels like I don't want to do anything, but there's no negativity behind it. In the past, the question of why would be, what's the purpose of anything in life? But now the question of why is, I could just do it tomorrow, or I'll just do it later, or I guess I could do it, but I'd rather do this. For example, the why is not an existential crisis why for me anymore. And that's very important. One thing I didn't mention in the interview with Dave that has stopped, and I'm so happy about, I used to wake up in a cold sweat like all the time. That was terrifying to me because I couldn't understand why. And I would also have a nervous sweat just most of the time. And since I stopped drinking coffee, the nervous sweat has definitely gone down. I noticed that I don't have as much body odor as I used to have. And that's also something that I really appreciate. I can go on and on about like little things. No more aches and pains, no more creaking, no more cracking, no more weird tingling. Like, there's just so many little things that you kind of take for granted that you don't feel them anymore. If you were to introduce something, then you notice them right away. Like, ooh, my stomach feels a little, you know what I mean? Or, oh, why do my shoulders hurt? Or something like that. A lot of those little things have gone away, and I'm very happy about that. Now, for the negatives, there are two main things that I want to talk about. And those are things that are kind of new, but not. When I was younger, I used to get leg cramps a lot. I got them throughout my childhood, and I also had them periodically throughout my adulthood. I recognize that there are maybe people who are prone to having like leg cramps, and I think that it would be nice if people would say things like that if that were the case. So that's why I want to preface what I'm about to say with that. Of course, we want to consider if you weren't having leg cramps, but you were maintaining a good diet with fruits and vegetables and things like that and plants, then that may mean that that including those foods in your diet may have helped you not have them. And I can recognize that. I do understand that. When you are carrying water weight, it's much more likely that you'll hold on to minerals. If you're holding on to those minerals, your body can actually use them when they need them, and therefore it will decrease the leg cramps. Last summer, I experienced some of the most excruciating leg cramps I've ever had in my life. And it made me reevaluate things. And I want to express or explain how I got over them. I was being very irresponsible. It's not something that I can blame on an animal-based diet. It's not something that I can blame on a carnivorous diet. And here are the reasons why. It was summer. Summer in Japan is very hot, especially now with, climate change. It's very hot and it is very humid. And so it's very easy to lose fluids very quickly without realizing just how much you're losing. That was the first thing. I would go for long walks and not care about the fact that I was sweating as much as I was and I wasn't replenishing my fluids the way that I should have been. On top of that, I was still drinking beer and I was still drinking coffee, and both of these things are dehydrating, and beer is both of those things are poisons as well. So, okay, maybe if you stop poisoning yourself, you won't be having this problem. And the fourth problem was the fact that I kept taking baths. I was obsessed with taking baths like that entire summer. I was obsessed with it. I love taking baths. But who takes baths in the middle of summer, right? When you've already been walking, you've already lost all these fluids, and now you're just going to lose even more fluid. I would just be sitting there drenched in sweat, thinking I'm doing myself a favor. I just thought people in Japan like to take baths, and there must be some kind of medicinal benefit to it. And so that's why I was doing it. But in doing so, I recognized that I was, losing a lot of fluids. And so it would only stand to reason that for all of that put together, I would be dehydrated. I would not be holding on to minerals. I would be just constantly, for no reason, losing minerals. And I do believe that that's what led to those leg cramps. So basically, you have to experiment, but you only have one summer a year. So I waited until after this summer to be able to see if it's a recurring problem and then to report on it. This is another reason why I wanted to make the video. I want to report on these problems because transparency is really important. And this summer, it's been, how can I say, every night, my legs will feel a little pulsating. Like you'll feel like some kind of pulsation sometimes. It's really annoying. I don't like it. I'm the kind of person who feels like I don't want to take anything. It's a personal decision that I've made for myself. And I also do believe that this diet should be enough to carry a person through without reliance on something that a company has made specifically to like alleviate an issue. And if I were to do anything to try to resolve the problem, it would definitely include eating something. It would almost never include taking something. I can't trust that whatever I'm taking is any safer than, whatever kind of, toxic plant I may put in my body either. How am I supposed to know the difference between those two if they're going to have a negative impact on me or not? But I don't want to do either of those things because I do not want to reintroduce fiber. I just simply don't want to do it because I don't want to be basically chained to the bathroom anymore. It's nothing that I want to be. So I just try, other ways because I'm stubborn about it. And luckily, and I'm very happy to report, I was able to get through this summer without having any excruciating leg cramps. I would have every now and again, the same as I used to have when I was a child and when I wasn't doing anything anywhere near carnivore adjacent. Every now and again you have like a little bit of a cramp, you get up, you kind of walk it out and it's fine. Those little things happen throughout the summer. They don't really happen outside of the summer. And I think it's common sense why. Understanding that people in tropical climates and things like that would rely on fruit to get through the summer, that makes perfect sense to me. I've said since the beginning that I consider plants medication, and that is a form of medicating as far as I'm concerned. You don't really get much of a nutritional benefit from it, but it allows you to get through a period of time in which you may be at a disadvantage, due to weather, for example. So the second thing that I want to talk about is sleep. So since last November, so this is the, entering the 11th month, basically, I have only slept about 5 or 6 hours a night, very consistently leading up to like right now. In the beginning, I was very worried because these eye circles kind of appeared relatively quickly. Like I think by the time my birthday rolled around, when my birthday comes, I started a new tradition where I like to get dressed up and dolled up and look cute. But the first year that I did it, I noticed that I was fine. I didn't really have those eye circles. But earlier this year, when I tried to do it, I felt they were really quite noticeable. And I was really worried because, when people look at your face, they should be able to see whether or not you're healthy. They should be able to see, your diet is working for you because, you don't look like you got punched in the eye. And this was something I took for granted in the past. But unfortunately, I have to admit, I've been having problems sleeping. I just have been. Well, when I say that I've been having problems sleeping, I would like to sleep more. I assume it's better to get 7 or 8 hours of sleep. That's my assumption because this is just what we understand to be the case. Whether or not it is necessary, I have no idea, but I would prefer to get more sleep. Now, how has it impacted me? Well, you would think that after a year of not being able to sleep well, you wouldn't be able to function properly. Like there would be something, besides a visual representation of a lack of sleep that you would, feel, this is the reason why it's really important for me to change my sleep habits. But I think the reason why I've just kind of become adjusted to it is because I'm still able to do the things that I want to do. I'm still building muscle. I'm capable of losing weight. I don't lose weight the way that I would like to, but I can tell that my body composition has changed. And that's more important than anything. I'm capable of building muscle. I'm capable of, just a couple days ago, I went to do my regular dances and I felt so good. Like it just felt light. I felt so capable and I felt very powerful. And you would think that after a year of not getting enough sleep, that would not be possible. That every single time you tried to exercise, your body would just be screaming for rest or something like that. I try to find other external evidences. So for example, when I'm teaching my lessons, I would think that students would stop asking for lessons. They would be complaining quite a bit. The teacher doesn't focus. She's all over the place. There's all these long pauses and things like that. But that also doesn't appear to happen. I don't know how long you have to go with sleep deprivation before you actually see signs of it other than physical signs. But I feel like in my everyday life, I don't really have a problem. There have been a lot of ups and downs since then because I quit sugar basically completely, except for bacon, which I found some bacon. If you saw the video with Dave Mack, I said I couldn't find any bacon, but I definitely found some. And so I switched the sausage for bacon. And so that's where I get sugar. But I don't eat dairy right now. And I don't use spices anymore. I just use salt. I don't really consume sugar in a way that I had done before. And I also don't drink coffee anymore. And I was really hoping that that would help with the sleep issue, but it didn't. So I don't exactly know what to do. One new thing that I've introduced is bone broth. I've made it twice. The first time I made it, I was a bit disappointed because it's not very tasty, but if I just chug it down, then I can get it down. And I felt like it helped me at least stay asleep through the night, even if it is still 5 or 6 hours. And I also felt like it helped prevent the tremor-y feeling, especially in the middle of the night, with my legs. And so I think that it's helpful. I think it's useful. So I'm just going to be experimenting with that. There are other things that I haven't been able to resolve, and I wish that I had been able to resolve. And basically, the problem with my breath is I feel still not resolved, and I want my hormones to get back in. Not back. Have they ever been? I would prefer for my hormones to be more good. I don't know how you describe it. I don't know the best way of putting it. But my periods are still kind of up and down. I've had some good periods, which is something that would have been impossible for me to say when I was younger. And that is good. It's a sign of progress. But I still have, the last period that I had was miserable. And I was like, I thought I was over this. I thought I was over this. So I was like, I want to make sure that my hormones are in good shape. And I think that would help me also lose a little bit of the stubborn weight that I seem to not be able to lose. My body really likes a particular size. If I lose too much, I'll get back to where it was. If I gain too much, I'll get back to where it really likes that particular size. And I'm like, but it's still a little bit too much, especially around the middle. It's like, I may not mind having big thighs. I like having big thighs. I like having a nice round bottom. And I like having, lady lumps. I like that. I guess for some people, they just want to be very flat or thin, but I don't necessarily, I'm not motivated to be like that. I want to be curvy, but I recognize that having abdominal fat is not a sign of good health. And so it doesn't need to be pancake flat. But at the same time, I would really prefer for it not to be, like, it looks like I still eat donuts, but I don't. I haven't had donuts in years. So I would prefer for my body to show that I don't eat like that anymore. That's what I would prefer. And so I am talking a bit about what I would hope to see in the future. And so continuing on, I mentioned before that I changed my eating habits even more than what they were a little bit earlier in the summer. And basically at this point, I no longer, consume the little treats that I would have here or there. I used to have like dark chocolate. I used to have nuts and things like that. I don't have those anymore. I used to incorporate a lot of cream and yogurt, but I stopped drinking and eating those. Basically at this point, it's mostly ground beef. It's sometimes steak. It is eggs every day. I eat twice a day and just regularly eat twice a day. I don't eat in the morning. I eat sometime in the afternoon and then sometime in the evening, maybe sometime before bed. It's just salt. It's eggs for both of those meals. I've been eating a lot of bacon recently, and I think the bacon is not so great, if I can just be honest. I don't feel it my tip-top shape with the bacon. Oh, and speaking of, some people have said that maybe this could be because of histamines. I eat a lot of crap meat. I'm going to be honest. That 100% is a possibility because the food that I eat is absolute miserable, terrible quality. I just have to admit that. And it's important to be transparent about that. I don't eat grass-fed beef. I wouldn't even know where to get grass-fed beef. I'm the kind of person who wants to get up by the power of her own feet, go to a place, pick it up, and come back home. The idea of ordering something and having people deliver things to my home, or my apartment, I should say, I'm a very strange person. I don't order things on the internet. It's just a thing that I don't do. I only do it if I have no other options, or if it's digital and it doesn't need to be delivered, for example. So I go to a grocery store, I go to Costco. Those are the two places where I go to get my food. I eat ground beef. It's maybe 80-20 or something. But I cook it, refrigerate it, warm it up. It's probably thawed and frozen and thawed at Costco. And then I take it home and pack it separately and then freeze it. Like, obviously, it's crap quality. It's just really bad. I also drink tap water. I also use a lot of chemicals, like in my environment and things like that. I'm not one of the really health conscious people. Most of what I'm trying to do is not be in pain every day. That's most of what I'm trying to do. So if there are some environmental problems, if there's some environmental problems with my food or, you know, with me just existing in an apartment that's very dusty and a little bit moldy. And, you know, if those are going to present some problems, and they do, at some point, maybe I might be able to improve my situation, but it is what it is, where I am right now. And so anything else about what I eat? Oh, and I have sparkling water. And besides that, I have nothing else. So a lot of people will have coffee, they'll have tea or something. I only drink water and sparkling water, but I drink water out of bottles. There's a lot of plastic, right? I changed my dishes to where they're all some kind of ceramic. I usually drink out of glass, things like that. But besides that, in the past especially, I used to warm things up in plastic all the time. And so that likely may be having some, you know, problems, you know, be lending to some of the problems that I'm having that I can't resolve. I don't know. I may never be able to have good breath. I have like maybe SIBO or something like that. Like my tongue is sometimes very furry. Sometimes it's pink. Sometimes it's very furry. It doesn't matter how many times a day I clean it. Whatever's happening in my body is whatever's happening in my body. I don't know what it is. I would very much prefer to resolve that. I just want to feel confident. And that's what I'm hoping for. If I do the strict carnivore for 30 days, for 60 days, or even 90 days, can I resolve those last problems? I hope so. That's what I'm praying for. I recognize that there is no such thing as a panacea. Basically, I'm not a religious person, and I don't believe that this world was created for us. And one of the main reasons for that is I do not think that there is a perfect food for just anything. When we think about our digestive health, you know, for example, you have a cow. Of course, cows have different digestive systems, but I sometimes say things like, so why are we burping and farting all the time if this is something that we're supposed to eat? And for some animals, that is basically what their life is like. And I also recognize, because some people will use koalas as a defense, but I think that koalas are like the perfect example on the other side, where, you know, because my whole thing is, why should food make you feel terrible? But a koala's food basically intoxicates them for most of the day. And also it's so toxic and poisonous that koala babies can't eat it. So it's like, okay, I understand that, you know, in life, things may be a bit more complicated than we think. It's not always so black and white. But for me, in my life, for humans in our lives, there are too many scientific explanations for why it doesn't have to be that way, or why likely it's not supposed to be that way or not meant to be that way. And one of the main reasons is that fiber is indigestible. That's one of the main things, right? One of the main, you know, reasons is that, you know, plant nutrition is not the same as, you know, animal-based nutrition. It's just not. Those are just a few things, right? It doesn't mean that there isn't any benefit from plants. Plants can be used as medication, but they're not food. And so that's where I am right now. And so, you know, I recognize that nothing is going to be perfect. So to think that the animal-based diet is a panacea, is going to resolve all of my problems, especially I'm pushing 40. You had 40 years to do exorbitant amounts of damage to yourself. You cannot expect that all of that's just going to be reversed, especially not overnight. So for now, as of, you know, October 5th, 2024, I'm in it for the long haul. I don't want to reintroduce carbohydrates. I do not want to go back to having the blood sugar issues I was having before, the mental health issues that inevitably come when I consume sugar. I do not want that. I do not want the problems that I have when I consume fiber. I do not want the IBS to come back. I don't want the GERD to come back. I do want to be a healthier version of myself. If I make more changes in the future, I'll be transparent about those too. So I try to get through this without rambling. This is like the 15th time I've tried to make this video. I cannot make it short. I cannot do it without rambling. But I think I was able to say everything that I wanted to say in a concise enough way. And so if you still have questions for me, please feel free to post them in the comments section. I'd like to thank you very much for watching, especially if you are still here. Thank you. And I hope to see you again in another video. As always, be having a good day.